Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupad Paramhamsa Radhicharya Ashutosh Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामचर्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय Full course to Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 6, Verse 38. Kritvaro dakshine savyam Kritvaro dakshine savyam Pada padmam cha januni Pada padmam cha januni Bahum prakoshte shamalam Bahum prakoshte shamalam Ashinam tarka mudraya Ashinam tarka mudraya Kritvaro dakshine savyam Kritvaro dakshine savyam Pada padmam cha januni Pada padmam cha januni Bahum prakoshte shamalam Bahum prakoshte shamalam Ashinim tarka mudraya Ashinam tarka mudraya Kritvaro dakshine savyam Pada padmam cha januni Bahum prakoshte shamalam Ashinam tarka mudraya Kritvaro dakshine savyam Pada padmam cha januni Bahum prakoshte shamalam Ashinam tarka mudraya Kritvaro dakshine savyam Pada padmam cha januni Bahum prakoshte shamalam asinam tarkamudraya krita, having placed Puro, 5. Dakshine, at the right. Sabyam, the left. Pada Padmam, lotus feet. Cha, and. Januni, on his knee. Bahu, hand. Prakoshte, in the end of the right hand. Akshamalam, Rudraksha beads. Ashinam, sitting. Tarka mudraya, with the mudra of argument. Translation. His left leg was placed on his right thigh, and his left hand was placed on his left thigh. In his right hand, he held Rudraksha beads. The sitting posture is called Virasana. He sat in the Virasana posture, and his finger was in the mode of argument. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The sitting posture described herein is called Virasana according to the system of Ashtanga Yoga performances. In the performance of yoga, there are 8 divisions, such as Yam and Niyam, controlling, following the rules and regulations. Then practicing the sitting postures, etc. Besides Virasana, there are other sitting postures, such as Padmasana and Siddhasana. Practice of these asanas without elevating oneself to the position of realizing the supersoul, Vishnu, is not the perfectional stage of yoga. Lord Shiva is called Yog Ishvara, the master of all yogis, and Krishna is also called Yogeshwara. Yog Ishvara indicates that no one can surpass the yoga practice of Lord Shiva, and Yog Eshwara indicates that no one can surpass the yogic perfection of Krishna. Another significant word is Tarka Mudra. This indicates that the fingers are open and the second finger is raised along with the arm to impress the audience with some subject matter. This is actually a symbolic representation. Om Gyantimarandasya Gyananjana Sharakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadigaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So the demigods headed by Lord Brahma have approached Lord Shiva, who has gone into meditation after his, what's happened with his wife Sati and the offense of Daksha. So they've come to see Lord Shiva to pacify him. Oh, sorry. Yes, it's not turning very well. And they've approached his abode, Kailash, Mount Kailash, and so it's significant that Lord Brahma has appeared with the demigods to Lord Shiva. So we know that in the material world there is also a Mount Kailash, which I believe is in Tibet, and so that's also considered the abode of Lord Shiva. But there's also a Kailash in the higher planetary systems, where the Gunavatar Lord Shiva is. And then there is another Kailash, which is Maheshtam. It's also called Maheshtam, where Sadashiv is the personality who is the personification of Mahavishnu's eye winking. He winks impregnating the material universe. So Lord Shiva, he is considered to be Yoga Ishvara. The Yogeshwara means he is the master of yoga, in the sense that he is the example for all yogis to follow. He's perfected yoga, and Krishna is called Yogeshwara. He is the person who yoga comes from. He's the person who you realize through yoga. So they're both yogas. They're both yoga. One's Ishvara, one's Yogeshwara. So there are three categories of Lord Shivas. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada quotes in the Adi Leela, in 154, he quotes from the Vayu Puran that there is actually a Vishnu Tattva, Sadashiv, in the spiritual world. And this Sadashiv is the personality who comes as Advaitacharya, who prays for Lord Chaitanya to appear. He is considered to have 93% qualities of Krishna's attributes. His role is purely spiritual. He does not get involved in material activities such as creation or destruction. The second category is in Maheshtam, which is in the intermediate sky between the spiritual world and the material world. So this is like a spiritual planet, and this place is where a former Lord Shiva called, he's also called Sadashiva, but in Brahma Samhita he's called Shambhu, is there. And he is the personality, who is the personification of Mahavishnu, who winks at the Pradhan when he impregnates it. And he's not Vishnu Tattva, he is his own category of Shiv Tattva. And he resides with his consort, Maya Devi there. And it's also called spiritual Kailash, and he possesses 85% the qualities of Krishna. He doesn't get involved in destruction, and he is always meditating on Shankarshan, which is one of the four quadruple expansions of Lord Narayan. And the third category of Lord Shiva is the Guna Avatar Lord Shiva. And this Lord Shiva is the one we are referring to, discussing. And this Lord Shiva has 11 expansions, who are called Rudra expansions. And these are the Lord Shivas that get involved in the destruction. So when there is a partial destruction, when Lord Brahma goes to sleep, it's called Pralaya, this Lord Shiva gets involved. So generally in scripture, when we are talking about Lord Shiva, we are talking about the second category, Maheshtam, and the third category, the Guna Avatar Lord Shiva. We don't generally speak about the first category because, as far as I understand, there's only one reference to him in Vayu Puran, which Prabhupada quotes. The Lord Shiva from Vishnu, the Vishnu Tattva Lord Shiva, and the Maheshtam Lord Shiva are eternal; they never die. So Jiva Goswami says in his famous work, the Sandarbhas, he says that the Sadashiv is not the same as the Lord Shiva in the Guna Avatar, the two different personalities, though he is the source of the Guna Avatar. So the Guna Avatar Lord Shiva comes from the eyebrow. He's born from the forehead of Lord Brahma when Lord Brahma gets angry, because the four Kumars are not proper. They're not having children, and they want to be Nashtik Brahmachari. So Lord Brahma gets angry, and from his middle of his forehead, this Guna Avatar Lord Shiva appears. So Lord Shiva is a very unique personality, sometimes very misunderstood. You see when there's a festival of Shivratri in India, many followers of Lord Shiva, they try to imitate Lord Shiva. They drink this beverage, which is milk mixed with cannabis. It's called bhang. They drink it and they get high, and they start dancing like crazy. And for them, they think it's a form of worship, worshipping Lord Shiva. And sometimes you also see the yogis who live in the Himalayas. Some of them also, who are followers of Lord Shiva, they smoke cannabis, because it's explained Lord Shiva also smokes it. So they imitate him. But what they don't realize is that, when you're dealing with Vishwaras, you're meant to follow their instruction, not their behavior, because they have different rules and regulations. which are different from what humans follow. So anyway, so this path that is described, because Lord Shiva is considered to be the perfect example of someone who follows yoga, Ashtanga yoga. So Ashta means 8, Anga means limb, the 8 limbs of yoga. Now, it's explained that Lord Shiva is in Samadhi. Now, generally, when we think of meditation, like we think it's like impersonal, especially in India, especially amongst different sects. They think, they're meditating on something impersonal. And I remember, like, before I became Krishna conscious, I was trying to get into meditation. And my uncle was giving me these magazines to read by, different yogis about when you meditate, you see a bright light. And I thought that was perfection. So then, when I became a devotee in my early stages, we were talking, 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and I said, well, do we see bright light? Because I wasn't really conversant with Krishna consciousness. I was still learning. I said, my understanding is when you meditate, you see bright light, like you see Brahman. So then we were sitting in this room. There was a lamp next to him. So he shunned the lamp in my face, and he said, "Do you see bright light now?" I said, "Yes." He said, "So what's the difference?" And it was kind of hit me. There's not really difference, because you're seeing bright light. So what's the point of it? Anyway, so Lord Shiva's his meditation. He's meditating on Shankarshan, and Shankarshan is Lord Vishnu. So he's chanting. So that's his worshipful deity, and it's for him. He's not like meditating because he's really upset. I mean, he's disturbed by what's happened, but it's not that he's trying to escape his problems. But his meditation is his highest spiritual ecstasy. And it's derived from constant meditation on Lord Shankarshan. So Prabhupada explains, I believe, in the next purport, he talks about Brahmananda, right? Brahmananda is the ecstasy experienced when you meditate, when you're fully absorbed in the Lord. So, an example of this is Prahlad Maharaj when he talks about his absorption in meditating on Lord Vishnu leads to freedom from material conditioning, duality, illusion. So Lord Shiva is practicing meditation like to the correct with the correct understanding, whereas in the West they don't really do that. So I was now if you like I remember before a few years ago I was because where I live there's this financial district called Canary Wharf, and they were doing yoga there, and I also it was very commercialized, and I was thinking, oh wow, they're practicing some form of Hinduism. But then when I started researching into it, like I found out there were different forms of yoga being practiced. There was one yoga in London which was very popular, where they practice yoga but they're naked, right? And then I heard about in America. I'm not sure in America where, probably in the South, they practice yoga with guns. So they hold a gun and they do the yoga. They do the asanas. In England, there's another yoga center where they drink alcohol while they're doing yoga. So they have this cup of beer and they do asana. They do some move and they drink the alcohol. So it's meant to enhance. So it's like all these bogus forms. And like so yeah, so they've completely like they've so it's not really the yoga, it's the other activity which is attracting people, and they're just doing this. So yoga, so they've kind of like completely gone away from yoga. They've commercialized it, and now mostly when people think about yoga, it's about physical fitness. And it's a fact, yoga is good for your body. If you do yoga, you won't have any body pains, you won't have any issues with the body, but they are stuck at the very preliminary stages of yoga. Um, and it's big business. Like I know someone in London, sorry, in Hungary. He's a devotee. He was teaching yoga, and he was getting many students, and he was making a lot of money. But because he's a devotee, he was also preaching to him Krishna consciousness. Teaching him Bhagavad Gita, getting him to do kirtan, getting him to chant, and explaining, there's a high aspect to yoga, to this practice. So that's correct usage of teaching. But mostly people don't know. If you speak to people about yoga and a yoga teacher, they won't have a clue that you have to have a certain lifestyle. You have to be vegetarian. You have to refrain from illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating. You have to wake up early. You have to live in a very mode of goodness way. They don't know anything about this. They just carry on with their normal business because for them it's like going to the gym. Running on a treadmill or lifting weights. That's what it is for them. But so that they don't know the ultimate purpose. They don't know what yoga is. So they get caught up in these preliminary stages. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explained, so, there's, like I explained, there's 8 limbs. The first limb is yam, which is the guidelines. There's asana, which is the bodily postures. There's pranayam, which is breathing control. And there's pratyahar, which is withdrawing the senses from external objects. And that's what Krishna talks about to Arjuna in the 6th chapter. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, these 4 aspects refer to Hatha Yoga. He explains in his famous book, I think it's called Prema Pradeep. He says the first 4 deals with the body and mind. It's a very preliminary, basic stage. And the next 4 deal, which is dharana, dhyan, samadhi, I forgot the other one. They deal with the higher aspects. They deal with the higher aspects of yoga. So, it's Pratyahara, Dhyan, and Samadhi and Pratyahara. They deal with internal meditation and spiritual absorption. Now, so when we think about yoga, like, generally people think yoga just means Ashtanga yoga, but actually, if you study Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about 4 types of yogas. He talks about karma yoga, he talks about jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and bhakti yoga. So and all those, the 3 yogas, they all culminate in bhakti yoga. So yoga really means bhakti yoga. So we know that in previous ages, in the first age it was meditation, in the second age it was sacrifice, the third age it was deity worship, and in this age it's chanting Hare Krishna. So all of these are all limbs of bhakti. So sometimes people say, oh, why is meditation, why is Ashtanga yoga recommended? It doesn't seem like bhakti. But the thing is, it's not so much. The thing is, it's what it leads to. It culminates in bhakti. So Krishna always recommends bhakti as the yoga dharma, but but he emphasizes a limb. So it's not that yoga only means one thing. So because bhakti yoga is the process for every age, but depending on one's intellectual and physical capacity, a specific limb is recommended. It's described how in Kali Yuga, in the 10th canto, it says that people are short-lived. They have so much anxiety. They're prone to so many problems. And they don't have the qualification. They don't have the adhikar to practice these elaborate Ashtanga yoga. Even Arjuna, actually, he says in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says that you're describing this yoga, this Ashtanga yoga, but I think it's very difficult. I don't think it's like controlling the wind. It's very difficult. It's impossible. So Arjuna was 5,000 years ago. He was living in the Vedic times. He was highly qualified. He could do austerity. He could do so many things, but even he couldn't do it because it's so. If that was 5,000 years ago to someone who's an intimate associate of Krishna, who's a devotee, what to speak of us? We can't practice it. Now the mass of people can't practice it, but there are some people who can practice it. Like right now we know there's the Kumbh Mela going on in I think it's in Prayagraj, if I'm correct, in North India, and these people come down from the mountains. They live in the mountains. Some of them don't even wear clothes. They're like very austere, and these personalities they do incredible amounts of austerity. Like there's a famous image of this yogi. He's had his hand up. I think it's his right hand or left hand. I'm not sure, but he's had it up for like 40 years. So because he's had it up, he's lost feeling. He's lost movement in the hand because he's had it up for 40 years. Some people haven't spoken. Some people they do all types of austerity. So there are people who can do this type of thing. So Prabhupada explains, he talks about, I think it's in the Science of Self-Realization, he talks about how there's yogis who, they were coming out of the river and into Kumbh Mela, and they were coming from a different realm, and then they would go back to that realm. I was also listening to another interview with one yoga expert, and he was saying that he knows someone who is a person who is a yoga expert, and he said this is what he said. He said this person is 1,000 years old, but he lives in the incognito way. You wouldn't think this person is 1,000 years old, and it was kind of hard to believe. But he was saying such personalities do exist. 2 years ago, there was one person who received an award from the Indian government. He was a yoga teacher, and he was 120 years old. And you'd think, if you look at this person, he looks 70, and he was very healthy, very fit. He actually paid obeisances to the president of India, and they said he's been doing it for 120 years. So I was thinking, well, he's practically the same age as he was probably born around the same time as Prabhupada. So there are some people who can do this. And so when you're practicing Ashtanga yoga, it's explained you develop these mystical powers called siddhis. There's anima. There's one, the ability to shrink, which is called anima siddhi. There's the ability to expand, which is called mahima. Then there's lagima siddhi, which is the ability to become weightless. Prapti siddhi, where you can acquire things, and so on. And there's the cities you can develop. There's also other cities as well. There's secondary cities. So when Prabhupada first came to the West, like someone said to Prabhupada, "Can you show us some miracles?" Because people are enamored by miracles. Like miracles are for people who are cheap, because they need that for their faith. Real faith is not based on these cheap things. So Prabhupada said, "Yeah, but can't you see the miracle? I've made these personalities who came from non-Vedic backgrounds. I've made them into devotees. I'm paraphrasing, but he said that these crows or these have turned into swans. This is the miracle, because actually it's great. He said that it's actually greater to change someone from a hedonistic, materialistic lifestyle and to come into a spiritual lifestyle. That is the greater miracle. That's the greatest mystical potency. And how did Prabhupada do it? He did it by the process of Krishna consciousness. So even now, like in India, like it's not just India, in Africa, and pretty much also in some parts of Europe and Africa. If you have some powers, you can easily get followers. There was this Bollywood film that came out, at least I think about 10 years ago, and it was basically about some person who was trying to expose how people, they follow something without any intelligence. They're not questioning what they're doing. So he said he was demonstrating to this person. He said, "Just look what I'm going to do." So he got a tree. There was a tree, and he put some kumkum, some artifacts, religious artifacts, and he left it there. And people started going to that tree and started bowing down and putting money. And then he collected the money. And he says, "See, this is how cheap these people are. They don't really know why they're doing that. They're just doing it. They have no idea." And it's definitely very much the case. I was watching, because in North India there's a lot of proselytization preaching by Christian missionaries, and they pretend they have powers, right? So what they do is they get this poor Indian person, and they'll say, "Look, we'll give you some money, we'll give you some food like rice or raw vegetables. You've got to pretend that when I touch you, you're going to have some mystical experience. You're going to be able to walk again. You're going to be able to speak again." And there's this famous video of this Indian kid. He said, "Oh, my sister couldn't speak, but after meeting you, she can now speak." And then he started to cry. And a few years later, these Indian guys, they found that kid, and they said, "Was it true?" He said, "No, it's not true. They bribed me with these with food and money to do this, so I did it." So it was like, and and it's so, if you can see those videos on YouTube, they're quite funny actually, because people are just like, they're following they're seeing this, and they think, "Oh my God, this person has powers." He doesn't even have real powers, and they just follow it. Like any of us can do that actually, because people don't have intelligence. They don't, they think powers is a sign of spirituality, but anyone can have that. What's the value of it? I was hearing one class where one Prabhupada disciple, he was talking about how there was this person, I think he was from Germany, and he was saying that, I want to learn the real spiritual science. Like I'm not interested in these mystical cities. Because all these cities, if you think about it, modern science has already done it. They've pretty much done all these things. You can fly from one place to the other. You can see small things. You can do most of these things. But the true mystical power is knowing who you are, what the soul is, and how to leave this material world. He was interested in that. And the thing is, this is the thing with mystical cities. It's just like, you get money and then you get bored of the money. There's no the novelty wears off. So that's why in Krishna consciousness we don't really like like give like we don't think much of siddhis. Now the thing is, when like I've heard of devotees who do develop this. Like some of our acharyas did have some sort of mystical powers as they were practicing Krishna consciousness, but that's just like a byproduct. It's not a big thing. No one cares about it. It's there. Like I'm just trying to remember the personality's name. It will come to me, but everyone said he had mystical powers, but it was actually just a byproduct of his devotion. So like, and Prabhupada, like, he warns that even though these mystical cities are powerful, they're impressive, they ultimately material, and they'll go away. If they'll go away once you leave the body, once you used up your karma, because unless you surrender to the Lord, there's no true value in spiritual progress. We read in the first canto of Arjuna. He was transporting Krishna's queens from Dwarka to Hastinapur in Delhi. And Arjuna was the greatest archer of his day. He was undefeatable. He defeated demigods. He even defeated Lord Shiva in battle. And this bandit came along and defeated Arjuna. So then Arjuna was like, when he arrived back in Hastinapur, he said to his brother, "I can't believe I was defeated by this bandit. I've defeated demigods. I've defeated great Maharathi warriors. How is this possible?" And then Prabhupada explains in that purport that the person the bandit who defeated him was actually Krishna. And Prabhupada explains that Krishna gave him powers, emergency powers, to do that service of fighting against the Kauravas and getting rid of the earth of these unwanted people. But once his mission had been achieved, he took away those powers. So those powers was just a way for him to serve Krishna. They weren't the all in all, So it's not these powers that are the main thing. It's the devotion, it's the sincerity, the surrender behind it, which is more important. So we may see these things like, but we're not enamored by it, because ultimately a lot of these people who have siddhis, they are also they also have subject. They can also fall into illusion. I was just thinking about how like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he was a magistrate in India during his time, and he had to prosecute this yogi who was using his powers to have illicit relationships with innocent women. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur arrested him, and then this person, by his mystical power, he did some sort of spell on Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur got sick, but then Bhaktivinoda Thakur just did his he was not disturbed by it. He did his sadhana, and then he realized that this person's power is in his hair, if I'm correct. And when they cut this person's hair, the person's power was gone. So it was like a temporary material thing, like that affected Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but because of the power of his sadhana, because of the power of his devotion, he was able to overcome it. So Krishna says, if you surrender to him, he will protect you. Like it doesn't matter what you're coming up against. You can come up against someone who's very powerful, someone who has so much connection, so much money. But if you surrender to Krishna, Krishna will help you. He will help you overcome that situation. So it's not a big thing, actually, because material qualities, anything you get material will run out once your karma's what's that word I'm looking for? It's used up. Anyway, exhausted. That's it, exhausted. But once you, but when you any qualities that come about, any qualities you develop due to bhakti will always be to your eternal credit. They will never go away. So, because in this age we can't do these austere yogic practices, or we can't even do advanced deity worship. We can't even do advanced what's the other one? Sacrifices. You know, so the most potent process is chanting Hare Krishna. So that, it's explained in the Padma Purana. It says that these 16 names can destroy everything, and it's the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it supersedes all these processes. I can't remember the where this is from, but I've heard that in the spiritual world, the Maha Mantra is in the background of everything. And from the Maha Mantra comes Srimad Bhāgavatam. From Srimad Bhāgavatam comes the Vedas. From the Vedas comes the Gayatri, and then Om comes. Then when it's reflected in because the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, so when Krishna plays the flute, Om comes, then the Gayatri, then the Vedas, then Srimad Bhāgavatam, then the Hare Krishna mantra. So the Maha Mantra is the source of all these things. If you chant Hare Krishna, you will get all perfection. It's the highest process. Now the Maha Mantra is in Kalisantara Upanishad, it says this is the highest process. And, it's explained that 3 names of Lord Ram is equal to 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, and 1 name of Krishna is equal to 3 names of Lord Ram. So it's so powerful. I mean, even there's the prayer called the Vishnu Sahasranam, the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu that I believe Bhishma Dev says in Mahabharata. It's in a lot of people, especially Sri Vaishnavas, they say if you're suffering from any material problems, like illnesses, financial problems, you just chant this mantra, and it takes about 45 minutes to chant. But if you chant this mantra, if you do it, the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, if you do it daily, you will get some benefit, and that's material benefit as well as spiritual benefit as well. But the Hare Krishna mantra is more powerful than that. In fact, someone was telling me that if you chanted the Hare Krishna mantra with a material motive, it would actually work. But because we are devotees, we don't do that. We chant it with the mood to serve Krishna. We want service for Krishna. But the Maha Mantra can fulfill this if you were to chant with that. And obviously, we don't do that. That's not our process. So anyway, just to sum up, so Ashtanga Yoga is impractical. You can use it for bodily exercises, but you cannot do these advanced austerities. The meditation is very difficult. It's very difficult to control the mind. So Prabhupada's process is very simple. When Prabhupada came to 26th Avenue, we read, if you read Dharamrāja, it says he got people to, he spoke only for 20 minutes, for 20 minutes. He chanted Hare Krishna and he got everyone to dance. He gave everyone prasadam. It was such a simple program, but such a powerful program. And due to that program, Krishna consciousness spread all over the 3 worlds. So we're meant to just chant, dance, and eat prasadam, and that's our process. We're not meant to be great gyanis. We're not meant to be great yogis or great priests. Because, Kolo Sudra Sambhava, everyone is a born Shudra in this age. Anyway, I'll finish here. If anyone has any questions or comments.
Lord Chaitanya is saying in the first verse of the Shishastakam that all varieties of devotional service are awakened by this chanting. So I like the point you were making, how the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the source of everything. So the Yuga Avatar, Lord Chaitanya, the Yuga Avatar is meant to uplift the faithful and suppress the demoniac. So in Kali Yuga, arguably or perceivably, that seems to be much more of an important thing to accomplish than it might have been in Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga. So we should take stock in that fact of the singular and exclusive power of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and try to propagate it as far as possible, widely as possible, as much as possible and be very pleased by the results. Even some perceivable now in our small lifespan, and what to speak of over periods of time longer than our lifespan. Prabhupada even said, historians will mark this time how the world was changed.
Thank you.
Also, today is Rāmānujācārya's Disappearance Day. If you would like to say something. Rāmānujācārya, his Disappearance Day is today.
Rāmānujācārya?
Rāmānujācārya.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I do know. Thank you for reminding me. I don't know too much about Rāmānujācārya. I've mostly been to his temples in India. But actually, if you go to Sri Rangam, which is in a place, I can't pronounce it properly, someone may, you can actually have darshan of Rāmānujācārya. His form is still there, it's preserved. So like they didn't put him in the ground, he just went into Samadhi, and his form is there. Who's been to Sri Rangam here? Anyone? You've seen Rāmānujācārya there? Yeah, he's still there to this day. So Rāmānujācārya, he established, I believe it's 108 temples of Lord Vishnu. I mean, those datas are eternal, but he reestablished the worship there. And there's one in the most famous one is Sri Rangam, then there's Balaji Temple, and there's one in Tibet, I don't know, Nepal, and there's one also actually on the heavenly planets. So he's a very interesting personality. He establishes the school of Vishisht Advaita. I think it's qualified non-dual. I can't remember it, but anyway, he's one of our great acharyas. And actually, Jiva Goswami was very much influenced by him in his arguments against Mayavad philosophy. So yeah, I know more about Madhvacharya than Rāmānujācārya, unfortunately. But though, if you look at the Sri Vaishnavas, if you think about Vedic culture, Vedic practices, the Sri Vaishnavas are pretty much at the top. They do everything very paka. Because we can't practice Vedic marg in this age, but they practice a lot of Vedic rituals very perfectly. They're very paka in their practices. But he is a great Vaishnava, and actually there's a murti. It's like, you have the Statue of Liberty. There's actually a statue of Rāmānujācārya somewhere in India. I can't remember now. Maybe where is it? Hyderabad. Yes, I saw that when I was in India. Yeah, and if anyone wants to say something about him, that would be great.
Rāmānujācārya has been a great acharya, of Sri Sampradaya. He was the one who could understand the will of Yamunacārya, even when his spiritual master had left his body. He could understand clearly, his three wills, what he had. Hare Krishna. Okay. He could understand very, very clearly actually, and there's a very beautiful pastime of his, how he how he predicts the will of Yamunacārya, and those three wills. One is like writing a commentary on Srimad Bhāgavatam, and one more is I don't remember exactly the other two, but he does that. Yamunacārya was a great acharya, and he is the one, Rāmānujācārya. He becomes the next acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. He had great followers, actually, a lot of grahasthas and sannyasis. And he revived he defeated Mayavad philosophy to a great extent, actually, by traveling all over India, actually, and established the worship of deity worship everywhere. In fact, we hear the past time that he wanted to establish the same standards in Jagannath Puri, but then Jagannath wanted his own way, so he was sent back to different place that night, overnight. These are few things. I thought I could just add.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took two principles from every sampradaya. So two principles he took from Sri Sampradaya was, first one was Ananya Bhakti,
Yes.
unalloyed devotional service. And second one was the service to devotees.
Yes.
It's called Bhakta Jana Seva.
Mm.
So these are the two principles Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took from Sri Sampradaya. And there is one pastime of Sripad Rāmānujācārya where he exhibits the power of the holy name. Actually, Rāmānujācārya was known for having multiple gurus. One was Yamunacharya, then he had Goshti Purna, then Mahapurna,
Yes.
and also Kanchi Purna
Mm.
was like his like a friend.
Yes.
So one such guru, Goshti Purna, was very happy with Ramacharya, and one day he said, "I'm going to give you a secret mantra." And Ramacharya said, "Yes, please." And Goshti Purna said, "At only one condition, that you're not supposed to tell this mantra to anyone else.
Mm.
Otherwise, you'll go to hell for it."
Yes.
So then he said, "Yes, I will not say it." And then he got this mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya. So as he chanted Om Namo Narayanaya, he got deep realizations by chanting the holy name of the Lord. And one day he went to the top of a nearby hill. From there he loudly announced, he said, "I've got the great mantra for deliverance, and it is Om Namo Narayanaya." Like that he loudly screamed.
Yeah.
So everyone got to know the mantra and everyone was happy. But then when Goshti Purna got to know that Rāmānujācārya didn't keep his part of promise, he became very disappointed. He didn't even want to see his face. That time Ramacharya, he begged forgiveness, and Goshtipurna asked, "Why did you tell? Why did you share this mantra with everyone? It is a confidential mantra."
Yes.
He said, "You said that this mantra is so powerful, anyone who chants it can go back to Godhead. So, and you also said, if I tell it to others, then I will go to hell. So I'm ready to go to hell so that others will be delivered and can go back to Godhead," he said. And Goshtipurna was immediately melted in his heart. So this is one pastime, and of course, Sripad Rāmānujācārya has ocean of pastimes, all heart touching and all revolving around this concept of unalloyed devotional service. So this is one thing I wanted to share.
I was going to ask, maybe you two know. So Rāmānujācārya is not Jiva Tattva, correct?
No, he's Lakshman, Ramanuja.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So if you go to Sri Rangam, you can have darshan of Rāmānujācārya. He's there. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty far out. I was remembering.
In
I was
fact,
remembering actually when you were explaining that about the two principles that in Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, it's explained. It's explained that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he instructed the acharyas because they all came at different times to give partial truth of reality. So they gave, they gave a partial understanding of reality, the relationship between God and His creation, and so first it was Shankaracharya who said it was all one. Then I think Madhvacharya came first, and he said no, it's different. And Rāmānujācārya said it's different, but there's a oneness. And then there was another Acharya, I don't remember, but then finally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he gave Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. So he completed he gave the ultimate understanding of reality. So it was like an evolution in theism, the understanding of ultimate reality. So these acharyas were great personalities. So they were fully conversant, and so so they were, it's explained they were actually devout. I think even if I'm correct, Rāmānujācārya probably did, or maybe it was Madhvacharya. He came to Navadvip, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, because I read the book a while back. Maybe someone can correct me. But yeah, he's a great, great personality, and his arguments against Mayavad philosophy, my understanding, is what influenced Jiva Goswami a lot. He was very heavily influenced by him, and he quotes him in the Sandarbhas. Does anyone like to? Anyone like to make a comment, ask questions? Okay, thank you very much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jaini Tagore Premanandi, Hari Hari Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol, Hari Bol.